Hey, it's Jose Galison. You're watching No Way Jose. You can find me on the No Way Jose YouTube channel. You can also find me on all the major audio podcatchers and Odyssey as well. Credit to Justin Campbell for the intro. If any of you got other podcasters out there are looking for someone to help you out with stuff like that, or editing, or pretty much anything, jack of all trades in that way, hit him up at jcamp1521. Today, my guest is PraxBen. If you guys are a follower of Part of the Problem, you guys may remember. This is like, it's hard to explain because there's like layers to it. Probably about, I don't know, maybe it was like a month, 2 months ago, a few months ago. He did a series, did a episode where he was shitting on Hasan, which those episodes are always great, where Dave goes after Hasan. And in that episode, there was a guy, I guess he's big on TikTok. I'm not a TikTok guy. Some of you guys may know him. He has a large TikTok account, PraxBen. In that video that Dave was making fun of Hasan was making fun of PraxBen. Ironically, anyone who has even like a cursory understanding of libertarian theory really knows that he was actually only making a fool of himself, because it was pretty awful. But yeah, that's who we got. We got PraxBen today, so it should be an interesting one. I know he's riled some people up on Twitter as of late too. We may or may not touch on that. I honestly don't even really care about that shit, but I don't know. Some people do, and if you want to drop in the live chat and ask about it, we'll fucking go into it. I honestly don't really care. But as always, just so you guys know the format right now, if you're watching it on the 7th, you are watching the live stream, which is publicly available. After this, it will go behind the paywall, and you won't be able to see it for about a week or so until I drop it publicly. If you want to see it be able to get you in the meantime, become a patron at patreon.com. It's just No Way Jose 2020. Lowest level being $2, highest level being $20, and the $20 is the sponsor level. My sponsors right now are CD McRae of the Whiskey and Tea podcast, Jacob Winograd of the Daniel 3 podcast. She is, I think, on a little sabbatical right now. She's got a couple episodes right now. Go check her stuff out. It's good stuff. I'm one of them, so you know it's good. With Daniel, he has the biblical anarchy type stuff, so he covers a lot of that type of content. I'm actually going to a show again next week. I've been on a show multiple times. He's been on my show multiple times. A good guy, yeah. Yeah, as always, go check out TopLobsta, TopLobsta.com. Use Jose at checkout for 10% off. With that, let's go ahead and bring on Prax or Ben. Hey, what's up, man?
Hello, it's great to be here.
Hey, I'm glad to have you. This should be a fun one. I guess if you want to go ahead and give an intro of yourself to my audience, so they can get to know you maybe a little bit more than just what I had. I'm sure there's more to you than just that. We and you operate on different platforms. You're more TikTok based. I'm more Twitter based. So yeah. I'm not as familiar with you as maybe some are, and so it'd be nice to hear a little bit of your story. So who you are, what you are, whatever you want to give your intro.
All right, yeah. So unfortunately, I'm a bit sick tonight, so I sound kind of awful, but we'll struggle through that. So I'm PraxBen. I've been doing mostly TikTok for about 2.5 years now. I started off, I just had a regular TikTok account, and then I saw these Bernie bros making these stupid videos, and I was like, some of the stuff they're saying, people are falling for it, and I can debunk some of the stuff. I really didn't know much about politics, but I knew enough to kind of shit on some of these Bernie bros. So I did that. I made a political account. At that time, I considered myself a constitutionalist, so I was kind of leaning libertarian, but I wasn't quite there yet. I was still a bit skeptical about some things like legalizing drugs or the Libertarian Party stance on abortion, other things like that. But I was very anti-war and very pro-gun, so I was like, yeah, I don't like lining up with the GOP, so I'm a constitutionalist. Then I started doing debates with people on TikTok and people on YouTube about politics, and I realized, if I'm gonna do this, I need to learn a lot more stuff so I can better beat these people. So I started reading Mises, started reading stuff from Mises.org. And then I was like, all right, I'm a classical liberal now. I'm a Mises guy. And then, from there I went further and I'm like, okay, I'm a minarchist after reading Robert Nozick. And then I went further and started reading Hoppe, and then eventually arrived at anarcho-capitalist, or paleo-libertarian, Hoppian, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I'm a huge Hoppe fan, and over those 2.5 years, I built up my platform on TikTok to about 180,000 followers. I've reached hundreds of, well, I reach millions of people, really. I have about 60 million views put together, which is really good. But as far as like people who have changed into libertarians, people who have changed into Hoppians, I've seen hundreds of young people get into that. I've really seen a huge spike in interest towards the Mises Institute, interest towards anarcho-capitalism from Generation Z, and that's been really great. And we've even seen some of the effects of that be recognized by fellows at the Mises Institute. There's been lots of great articles this week about the popularity of, say, the economic calculation problem debate, which me and some of my ANCAP guys on TikTok kind of helped get that going. We were going after all these leftist YouTubers, leftist TikTokers talking about it. So a bunch of people were Googling it, and Per Byland did a great article on that, and he actually talked about it in a speech at the 2021 Supporters Summit for the Mises Institute. We also helped get Democracy, the God That Failed, selling more than the Communist Manifesto on Amazon. Mises Institute also did an article about that. So yeah, lots of really great progress has been made with the Zoomers for anarcho-capitalism. I've seen everyone from paleo conservatives to normie cons to Marxist Leninists go straight to ANCAP and get really interested in theory. Me and my friends, we also encourage these young people to get into working out, to own guns and all this stuff. It's been absolutely fantastic. We're fostering great communities, and it's just really fantastic to see. And I'm very optimistic about our future.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, obviously, I think it's a mixed bag when it comes to the future. There are going to be places that suck and places that are great, and even within those places, it kind of depends on how you set yourself up. But yeah, I'm definitely, I'm definitely looking forward to the future. That's great. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking? Because you say Zoomer, I don't even know what the hell that means.
Yeah,
Honestly,
I'm
like,
21, so I would
okay,
fall
no,
under
okay,
Gen Z. I think Gen Z falls like 1997 to, like, I don't know, 2020, 2017, somewhere around there.
yeah. I see you in the chat, Junkie Jeff. You've been here a few times. You said I've not run any Hoppe yet, but he seems like libertarianism for edgelords. Well, I would just put like the Chad meme yes here, but like in a good way, you know. Yes and no. I mean, you obviously could probably speak on this a little bit more. I like Hoppe a lot. I don't necessarily consider myself a Hoppian, but he's honestly, I think I've said before myself, although I don't consider myself a Hoppian, I feel like he is the most important libertarian in a certain sense. But I caveat that with that he was riding off, not riding, but he had the benefit of his predecessors, so Rothbard,
Mm-hmm.
Mises. So I definitely I see him as the pinnacle in my opinion. Although I don't necessarily completely subscribe to everything, I don't consider myself a Hoppian. I actually consider myself more of an agorist, and I know a lot of people don't like that. It is what it is. It's weird. I very much I say Konkin and Hoppe are like really the only practices that have any sort of modicum of like reasonability in my opinion. So like which I mean I'm not sure how familiar you are with their both of their practice. I'm assuming you know Hoppe's practice fairly well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
so
Hoppe's
yeah.
definitely a bit more towards like electoralism type stuff than agorists are. Agorists completely against that generally, but we still of course support agorism to an extent, of course,
Yeah. Yeah.
engaging in gray markets and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, as far as like Hoppe for edgelords, I know he didn't mean it as a bad thing, as he pointed out. But I would say, like, I mean, I don't think Hoppe's stuff is really edgy. Like it's very intellectual and very consistent stuff, and I don't think there's anything too crazy in there at all.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
I
very
know a
similar
lot of
to It's very. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but it's actually very similar to how Rothbard writes. He's just brutally honest.
Yeah,
It's not that he's intentionally being edgy. He's just like not like coddling anyone. Like
right.
that's how Rothbard wrote as well. Just as I don't know if maybe Hoppe was just a little bit more brutally honest. I don't know, but you read Rothbard, and the same thing applies to a lot of his writing as well. So
Yeah, and I would say like word for word, Hoppe or Rothbard was way more edgy than Hoppe. You know, Hoppe of course says stuff like "crush the anti-fascist mob," but that's a slogan. You know, of course he elaborates on that, and he's not like we're not like against people who are against fascism. Obviously, we're pointing out that these people label themselves as anti-fascist, but they're a bunch of violent, horrible people who want you dead. You know, and then, you know, meanwhile, like Rothbard is like, unleash the police on the homeless people. Parents have no obligations to their children and stuff like that. I think Rothbard's definitely a bit more edgy. But of course, the major contributions of Hoppe would be like argumentation ethics, where he was trying to get away from natural rights in the Rothbard tradition. And then, of course, like his major contributions to libertarian class analysis. And he was really kind of ahead of the game on that. A lot of the other libertarian class theorists came after that. Of course, going back to the 1800s, there's a few guys who touched on it, but Hoppe really gave something solid.
yeah. I would suggest for anyone listening who is interested in argumentation ethics, because argumentation ethics can get weird, or it's kind of meta and a little bit hard to understand. I think the best I've heard it explained, and even I still readily admit, argumentation ethics is something I still kind of like have to like work through in my head, and like like I don't know, I still kind of ping pong it back and forth, and I haven't completely, but I just my recent episode with Kinsella, I feel like Kinsella in that episode, that's the best I've ever heard it explained, in my opinion. So, and I did want to say too on that whole agorism hopping thing. I actually had a while back. I had Jared. I don't know if you're familiar with him from hopping.org.
Yep.
I had him on my channel. We kind of had the talk, like the hoppingism, agorism type talk. And my thought of the matter is kind of that I think that agorists and hoppians are actually kind of like perfect allies. I know it's funny because they are really many times shown to be at odds, and that's that's kind of fair because agorists can be kind of cringy leftists sometimes, some of the ones that get attracted to it. But if you think about it, the praxis that the hoppians are shooting for and the praxis the agorists are shooting for, they kind of perfectly complement each other, which I guess that's kind of where you get some of the post-libertarian movement that you see now is actually in some senses basically that. But I mean, if you have a group of people who are trying to use political endeavors to, I guess, incentivize like private property rights and such, and then you have people like agorists who are just trying to be entrepreneurs, obviously they're kind of a perfect match. Like, and I mean, yeah, sure, both of us can critique the other, but at the end of the day, we kind of, I mean, whatever, like we work well together, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
wouldn't consider myself one of the post-libertarians. I
yeah,
definitely lean more in that direction of electoralism, but I think, you know, sort of the whole, we shouldn't really care about principles. We shouldn't care about the non-aggression principle and stuff like that. I think that's
yeah,
getting into total ridiculousness. There is Kinsella definitely explains argumentation ethics very well. Also, I'd recommend, there's a guy named Liquid Zulu.
yes,
Zulu. He's a small ANCAP YouTuber. He recently did a video where he explains it very well, and I highly recommend that. It's like 16 minutes long. Him and Anglo Libertarian also made several great videos, kind of critiquing the post libertarians, which are
mhm,
absolutely excellent. Now, I
yeah.
wouldn't say Hoppe would be in agreement with the post
No,
libertarians.
I wasn't even saying that either. I was
Yeah,
more, and I do want to clarify too. I think this is a common thing that happens. I'm not even necessarily saying you're doing it when it comes to describing the post libertarians. I'm not trying to strawman them, because the post libertarians isn't. Whenever people say post libertarians or praxians or whatever the hell they want to be called, they don't really have a solidified praxis. They're basically just a rough group of individuals that sort of have a sort of very vague, I don't know, mishmash of. And I think it was LB Munez, a friend of mine, who said it's not a it's not a what do you call it? It's not a movement, it's a moment or something like that. It's not really so much a really stabilized group. To refer to them as some sort of, be like, I don't know, like to say, it's not the same as saying Hoppians or agorists or whatever, because they don't really have a solidified praxis or solidified belief or anything. It's really just more or less a group of individuals who are kind of just thinking differently, who are kind of talking amongst themselves.
Right.
So yeah, I guess that's where a lot of people, I think, struggle to grasp what's going on there. Like they think it's this like solidified ideological movement that is in unison, and you're like, no, they're not even close to that. So like, yeah. Which, I mean, I don't know if you were saying that at all. I mean, yeah, I know what you mean though. They can get, some of them get weird. I've seen some of the guys from the group will say shit like questioning the NAP or something, and then it gets conflated to be the whole group believes this, and you're like, well, that's just one of the guys said that kind of is
Right.
roughly associated. I mean, it's just more just a group of libertarians who are kind of thinking outside the box, essentially. So
Yeah, what I've noticed is it tends to be Hoppians or paleo libertarians who call themselves that in name, but they just want to act exactly like paleo conservatives, but not just paleo conservatives, like the America First, like Nick Fuentes paleo conservatives, which I'm not opposed to everything in that whole movement, but I think I don't think they're quite as effective as they could be. And that in reality, a lot of libertarians are being a lot more effective, especially these past couple of years. Like Young Americans for Liberty is on track to put in like 250 legislators that are libertarians across America, which is pretty huge. And there's lots of Free State Project and stuff like that. It's doing fantastic. And I don't know. I don't even know if like there's anything that we can attribute to like the Nick Fuentes branch of the America First movement. You know, most
yeah,
of their actual candidates fail. Like they have people who are like, oh, this is an America First guy, like Ron DeSantis, but you know that America First movement wasn't behind him getting elected. It
yeah.
was just regular conservatives who voted him in and who advocated for him.
I'm sure I could make some sort of argument for what Fuentes has contributed, but it isn't. I get what you're getting at. I do think there is something to the Fuenteses, the alt right, the whatever you want to say, that have kind of transformed how discourse occurs on the internet in a certain way, and it is kind of cool. And there's something to be said there, but yeah, they're definitely not like prime movers in any sort of political sense, aside from being the maybe the fringe, if you will.
Mhm.
But yeah, I get what you're saying. To act like Nick Fuentes. This is a big thing where all these people that freak out about Nick Fuentes and, oh my god, he said racist shit, this, that. Like, who fucking cares?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, I mean, for one, most of the time that's completely blown out of proportion. But even if it was true, who fucking cares? Like, oh no, so what? This random dude that doesn't really have any political power, or really, like, yeah, he has some people who follow him that more or less just think he's kind of funny and has interesting thoughts. So what if he's actually legit out and out racist? Like, who gives a fuck? Like, okay, just don't watch him then. I don't like. What are you worried about? Like, no one says you have to interact with him or have anything to do with him. So, but
Yeah, I definitely don't care about that aspect too much.
no. Oh, what do you mean, the racism stuff? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's like
Oh,
I'm not gonna freak out over Nick
yeah.
Fuentes because
I honestly, I'm of the opinion, I don't care if you're racist. I mean, like, I joke. I mean, I make racism jokes all the time. I'm it's like ironic. I'm not actually, but like at the same time, I don't. If someone's genuinely racist, like, I don't care. I mean, I maybe we won't be friends, and even then, I might actually be friends with a racist. I don't care. It depends how. I mean, if like, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't bring them around my black friends, like, or whatever they don't like, but like, I don't know. It's more or less just like, okay, that's their weird ass preference. Well, that's kind of dumb. Like, all right, well, let's move on. Like, who cares?
yeah, it's
Um,
like there's much more important issues at hand.
yeah. All right. Well, one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on is I wanted to kind of give you, and this is kind of funny how many orders this there of like layers there are to this. I'm gonna have you kind of respond to the video of Hasan kind of shitting on you. Or, it's weird calling it shitting because it really wasn't. Anyone who, I think this will work well as a good like libertarianism 101 episode for a lot of people, because a lot of this is like really basic shit, and it'll work too for just for noticing like fallacies from like our ideological enemies, essentially. So let me give me a second. Let me pull that up. I'm kind of a tech retard, so let's see if I can figure this out. Oh shit, what did I just do?
And there's a few good comments here.
Go
This
ahead.
guy,
Yeah.
random internet guy, he asks if you should read A Theory of Capitalism and Socialism, or
It's a good one. Yeah.
Or the economics and ethics of private property first. I would say A Theory of Socialism and Capitalism. I think it's a better book in general, and it's shorter, so you can kind of get through that, and then you may not even feel the need to read the second one. You know, a lot of Hoppe's work is actually very repetitive. When you get into like his books, you know, they have a lot of the same essays in them, so you don't really necessarily need to read all of his books. Let me see. Suggestion: reading Austrian economics. If you want a good introduction to Austrian economics, then Economics for Real People by Gene Callahan. It's one of the best ones.
All right, almost through this. All right, let's do it. Let me know how the audio is coming through. It should work here.
Yeah, I don't hear it yet.
Oh, you're not hearing it on your end?
No.
Oh, fuck.
Let me
Well,
see.
this screws up everything. It's weird. It allows other people to see it, but it won't allow you to hear it. Why? That makes no goddamn sense. I did this earlier and allowed other people to hear it. Let me see. It was a way to do it. Fuck. Let me see. Well, Jesus, share the tab. What does that even mean? God damn it. I fucked this earlier and everything. All right. Well, the people listening can see, and I'll just kind of give you the fucking the. God damn it, man.
Yeah, I'll pull it up on my end too.
Okay. Well, maybe that'll work. Yeah. God, that's fucking. I did not think that your audio. This makes no goddamn sense. I don't know if just boomering this shit up or what.
Can they hear it?
Huh?
Can they hear it?
Yeah, the people can hear. I know that I did a test thing earlier to make sure they could. So I don't know. I just don't know. Wait, there was no audio over stream either. What? I did this earlier and it worked perfectly fine. Well, fuck me. Maybe there's no audio over stream. I did this earlier. This makes no goddamn sense. This
Yeah,
shit
when
pisses
you're
me.
let me see. You press share screen. Share screen. Let me see.
Let me try this. This is gonna be great for the audio listeners.
No, this is.
Oh, you know what? There's a little checkbox for share system audio. That's fucking stupid.
There you go.
All right. Well, share. All right. Tell me if you can hear this now.
No.
What the fuck? Well, this is great. I'll have to edit this out later. This makes no goddamn sense. I was doing it earlier. Let me see. Let me try this. How to do stop screen, share screen. This is great stuff. Share system audio. Let's do the entire screen. Fuck it. I'll just do the entire screen this way. This will be the shitty way of doing it. Supposedly should work. Let me know if it works.
Personally disagree with that.
Yeah, right now.
All right, cool. There we go. All right. Well, live chat. Let me know if you're not hearing it. But this is a different way. Now it's just gonna show the whole screen, which is annoying. But whatever.
But it's a classic Richard Wolf Andy. Let's see what he has to say, though. This guy looks like he's about to intellectually dismantle him. Okay.
This is incredibly stupid. First of all, logically, just because something affects you doesn't mean you should have a say in it. If 50 people.
Wait, what? Just because logically, bro, you can't just say logically and then say whatever the you want after it, and then people will be like, "Well, that guy's logical."
I don't know if you want to address that one real quick because that's an easy one. And that's
Yeah, because he's like stopping it before I'm even done and like criticizing it. Well, it's like, well, logically, and then he stops it. Yeah, you can't just say logically. It was like, well, I wasn't even done with my sentence yet, bro. Like that's one of the problems with reacting to things live that you've never seen before. Like if you're gonna do a rebuttal, like maybe watch it first. Watch the entire thing first.
All right, well, we'll keep moving. I just thought that one was dumb.
See, logically, unicorns should exist, just like the free market. It does. Oh my God, he has his IQ. Oh no.
Yes.
Oh no.
I'm assuming that's ironic. Your IQ in there.
Yeah, I was doing the Scott Greer thing, and leftists took it so seriously. And dude, I was getting hundreds of comments every day. People flipping out because I put my IQ in my bio, and they were like trying to make fun of me. And I'm like, you can't make fun of me because it's ironic. Like,
Yeah. Wait,
you're just
is it your actually IQ? Because if it was me, I would just put like a really low IQ and just like not actually be my IQ.
yeah, that is my actual IQ.
Okay. All right.
And then I started like making it go up 1 point every week to see if anyone would notice. And they did notice, and they freaked out over that too. It was great.
That is pretty good. Oh, that's the kind of hijinks I like. That's fun
And
shit.
Ben, IQ 137. Oh no, dude. Okay. Listen. I don't want to be rude, but okay, I'm lying. I do want to be rude. Motherfuckers like this who think they're gonna thrive in an Ancapistan type civilization, who think that like they're gonna logic their way into like owning a factory or whatever. No, bitch. You and your family will be enslaved by me. Okay, I'm just letting you know right now. Ancapistan, you will be my slave. You will not be the factory owner. You will.
I don't know if you want to address it here. I definitely want to bring up. I hate this characterization of quote unquote Incapistan. Like it's like, oh, it's just slavery or whatever the fuck, like it makes no goddamn sense,
Yeah, anything is possible if you make it up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. Yeah, I guess we can move on.
It's funny. Actually, some of my family, some of the people I descended from, basically lived in an anarcho-capitalist society up in Canada. The Acadians, and along with them, the Mi'kmaq Indians. They were stateless, and they were like super pro property rights. And basically, for 100 years, they didn't have a state, and they were the most prosperous colony in all of North America, or anywhere for that matter. And the most peaceful people, as far as like, or some of the most peaceful people, as far as like the Indians go, because they respected the Indians' property rights. I'm working on a YouTube video about that actually, but yeah, like that this is in my blood. Like, and my ancestors were not enslaved by other people in the ANCAP society. They were later enslaved by the British, by the state.
All right. All right, let's keep moving. Feel free to tell me to stop at any point in time. Because I had to do it this weird ass way, I can only look at this one YouTube video, so I can't see you or anything.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll just keep moving. Let me know if you need to stop, but obviously I'll be able to try to be not a retard about it and stop it at points that make sense. So
Not be enslaving others. You will be my slave, and then I will be Elon Musk's slave. Okay? Please stop thinking that in an ANCAP deregulated society that you will thrive in that society. You will not. Okay? If you're not thriving in this situation, you're not thriving in that one.
People walk into my home now just because they're going to be affected by the conditions of my house. That does not mean that they get a say in what I do. It is.
Wait, what? No, they absolutely do get a fucking that's literally not true. That's why there's like zoning restrictions and like for example, if you have
all right, I want to stop there. I don't know if you care, but I hate this because this is an appeal to like, this is like, okay, well, there's so many assumptions baked into that already that are you just like assuming I already buy into all these? Like,
yeah, because I'm talking about like a logical argument, something that's objective, something that's consistent. And then he's like, well, there's laws, right? There's laws. It's like, wouldn't you argue that like certain laws are illogical? I mean, they got to be, because we've definitely have a lot of laws that contradict each other or that contradict any logical argument. And then he goes on to say like, oh, if like a kid falls into someone's pool, it's like, no, I was clearly saying like if it affects you. The guy said if it affects you, not if you're hurt because of some sort of negligence or something like that. Like, we're talking, you walk into someone's home, every single aspect of that home affects you. It doesn't mean that you now have partial ownership over that home. And that's what they're arguing for here, basically. Yeah. They're arguing that you need to have a partial ownership of that home. And, that shows they're against personal property, too. They're not just against private property.
Yeah, well, this is the crux of any time you have someone of his ilk and some of ours kind of arguing is, I mean, a lot of times they just kind of, we're just talking past each other because we're operating under the paradigm of private property and they're not operating under that paradigm. So it is just like, this is like an assumed point from the get-go. And they're like multiple layers past that, just like, like laughing about it. And you're like, okay, well, I don't agree with like a very prime point of your logic. Like this is like, so you have multiple layers of things built onto this logic that, and this is why you're in this indignant like spot that you're at, So
yeah, but like it's clearly the arguments for the workers owning the means of production is like labor theory of value, or at least a utilitarian argument. It's not, oh, it affects you, therefore you should have a say. So the fact he defends that position is just kind of wacky. I guess it's just because he's stupid, like.
Yeah, very dumb. Yeah. All right, let's keep it moving. Yeah, he is. It's so weird how he has blown up. Like, that's probably the best point he makes in this at one point of how, I think he brings up like meritocracy, which obviously there are other arguments to be had there, and we'll get into that when it comes up. But he is pretty goddamn awful. So it is funny that he's gotten to where he's gotten, because he is the stereotype of like the bad, like, fallacies, essentially, like how he interacts in general,
Right.
like in debate or whatever. Which, I mean, to some degree, I get it. That's fine. I do it all the time. I will intentionally be fallacious or intentionally not argue in an honest manner, but it depends on the scenario. But I feel like this is him actually legitimately trying to debate, if you will. So, yeah. All right, let's move on.
If you have your friends that come over to your house and they have children and they fall into your fucking pool and die, like, you're absolutely liable for that, for not putting up a fucking pool gate. Okay, so that's not even true. Okay, let's keep going.
Who has pool gates though? Like, is that a thing? Pool gates?
Reading democracy.
Oh, did you say something?
I say, who has pool gates? Is that a thing? Pool
That
gates?
is a thing. Yeah, I've seen those before. But at the same time, it's kind of like, I mean, I don't know. I guess we can get a weird, deep theory here. At the same time, if you come over with your own fucking kid to my house, I'm sorry. It's your own goddamn responsibility to take care of your fucking kid. If your kid trips in my pool and drowns, I don't know how the fuck that's my fault. So
It's like when they go and freaking get into my pantry and drop like a giant jar in their head or something. I don't know. Like, they could do anything. It's like, I'm definitely not liable for everything they do.
Yeah, which is part of why, like, I hate this argument he's making, because it's an appeal to that. It's like it's not even like a good example of like a law or something that you're like makes sense, because the whole, like, where you hear stories of people who hurt themselves with someone else's property, and then they sue the landowner. It's like, unless it's some sort of like business or something that like is kind of assumed that they should be somewhat safe, which, I mean, I don't know. We can get a weird theory, but like, it is ridiculous, especially if we're talking like normal private property, to make that argument. You're like, dude, you're at someone else's fucking house. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you hurt yourself. I'm sorry, you're fucking retarded. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, unless I set up some sort of trap, like, then maybe that's a different story. Like, I don't know. Like, if I invited you on my property, then set up a tripwire with a shotgun shell, I mean, like, then okay, sure, there's a case to be made. But just tripping and drowning in my pool or whatever, no, that's stupid. So, yeah. Let's move on.
To The God That Failed by Hans Hermann Hoppe, or The Myth of the Rational Voter by Brian Kaplan. Incorporating democracy into the world.
At least the ANCAP is like, doing the reporting. Like, he basically is like, yeah, this doesn't work. Like, democracy is a failure. He's doing I am an anarcho-capitalist, and of course, because of that, I'm a fascist take. That's what it is. At least there's honesty in this. I'm really rational.
I gotta address that. Fascism, the go-to fascism. I don't know if you want to address that. I mean, because
it's like, I don't even know what he was saying there. Like, I'm doing the reporting. Like, what are you saying? What are you saying, Hasan? Like,
I think he's just saying that you were upfront about the fact that you're a fascist. Like, you're saying the quiet part out loud type deal is what he's saying. Where it's like,
democracy is literally a form of government. For you to say, oh yeah, we have a democratic, anarcho-capitalist society, anarchist society, whatever. Like, it's clearly a contradiction. And he doesn't even like fascism and anti-democracy are not synonymous. And of course, fascism is anti-capitalist. Fascism is for a large state. Fascism is for socialism. Like, I'm absolutely going to do the freaking thing that boomers do and say, yeah, the freaking fascists and the Nazis were communists and socialists, 100%, because that's just true. They definitely were not for capitalists. They definitely were not for private property. Hitler got rid of Article 153 of the Weimar Constitution, which guaranteed the right to private property. These people were, he was a communist. He fought for the Bavarian Soviet in 1919. He was on the side of the Soviet, on the side of Moscow. Like, these weren't capitalist people. These weren't libertarians. These weren't anarchists. Nothing even close to that. They were much more close to what Hasan is.
Yeah. No, it is ridiculous. The fascism thing is, I don't. It's almost like feels dumb even arguing with Hasan because of the dumb shit he says. You're like, do you have to for the umpteenth time be like, no, anarchism is not fascism? Like it just feels dumb. Like even for our normie standards, but I guess not. Like I guess you use a certain point where it's like, yeah, I guess normies are just that far removed from logical discourse. I don't know. But yeah, I guess we'll keep moving. Yeah, the fascism thing's fucking retarded. By the way, if anyone is super chatting, I don't know. I'm not able to keep track of the chat. I'll go over them later and we'll address them if there's anything that comes up. But right now, unless I keep like fucking with your view, I gotta basically be on this YouTube page. But all right, boom.
And really logical, and that's why I'm a fucking Nazi.
Workplace is something.
Which that's another. He did it again. The Nazi. Okay, I guess I'm kind of pointing out it's the same thing. We just brought it up, the fascism. Then he brought it to Nazi. Which
Nazis are like, yeah, we have this entire theory of history, these theories of race, these theories of the state and government and all this stuff. And then he's like, well, I mean, it's just anti-democracy, which honestly, Hitler was pro-democracy.
Yeah.
If we're being honest.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, like a lot of people too don't realize, like a lot of the Jew stuff was like, he was more or less like, we kind of joked. I joked about it on like Power Power recently, but really he was just more or less reading the room. Like that was completely a democratic action. Like he was just kind of like, well, that's kind of what they want to hear, and I said it. Like people act as if he just like ginned up all this hatred, like it was not existent until he came around and just everyone followed him. It's like, no, he was just kind of reading the room and completely playing the democratic game like a fiddle. Okay, like. I mean, maybe that might hurt your sensibilities because everyone wants this one evil man to blame. It's kind of like, well, I mean, these was a disenfranchised group that found a fucking scapegoat, and then someone came up and pointed out said scapegoat, and everyone fucking fell for it. Like, it was pretty goddamn democratic. So, but yeah. All right, I guess we can move on. It's just, I mean, I don't know. It feels silly pointing these out because this is like 101 shit. It is funny how like he did the fascism thing because like anarchism, fascism, and then he jumped right to Nazi. It was like because it's almost like that's the straw man of that, like fascism is Nazism, but no, he went right to it. Yep, anarchism and fascism or Nazis, exact same thing. Yep, we know how much NAP respected they were. But, all right,
that has been tried many, many times. A democratized workplace is called a worker cooperative. Yugoslavia actually once had a system entirely made up of worker cooperatives. And this is a great paper from the London School of Economics analyzing.
Oh, I wonder what the London School of Economics had to say about fucking Yugoslavia, dude. Let's see.
This worker cooperative system in Yugoslavia increased unemployment, decreased job finding rates, even increased the natural rate of unemployment. At one point, more than 20% of the workforce was working.
I gotta point out, I know it's not even really like anything of substantive. He's such a catty bitch. Like, he's not even like waiting for you to make your points. He's already just ridiculing. Like
it's like what is he ridiculing? Like that it's an economics institution. It's like, whoa, bro, are you quoting like an economics journal? Wow.
Yeah, it's like it just reminds me of like every fight with like a dumb woman ever, where you're like, especially like a girlfriend or something, where you're like, hey, my friend Andy said right here I was here. Oh, Andy, hey, Andy said that, and you're like, yeah, Andy said that. I don't know what are you getting at, like. Okay. Like, all right.
It's the whole the normie view of research and sources, which I really hate. I unfortunately I think most people fall into that category. It's the people like they're like, hey, I got this freaking thing on PubMed. It must be true because PubMed is some credible source. It's like, well, no, PubMed is a source that accesses a ton of different journals about medicine and health. Like, it's not a journal. It's not a peer-reviewed journal. It doesn't even have to be peer-reviewed to be in there, which I don't always care about peer review anyways, but I'm just saying, it doesn't have, like, every single person is going to find a lot of things that they disagree with in PubMed and whatnot. Like, and then, they'll be like, oh, this is from an economics journal. They're anti-socialist. They're biased, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's just so stupid.
Yeah, it is funny, the hallowed institution of science, and it is kind of funny the past couple years and what it's done to it. I mean, a lot of people still lean on it, and even myself, probably a few years ago, I still kind of had this like deference for science, TM or whatever. And like even now, though, like don't get me wrong, like I agree with science, the scientific method, but you know how they have this idea of like, well, this is peer reviewed, this is that, so this is they have this whole like fucking ridiculous method of how we determine this is truth, and it's like there's so many assumptions baked into that, like. How many of these fucking COVID things were peer reviewed? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, obviously, I don't know. Maybe none of them were, but I have a feeling there were a few that a lot of people were jumping on. Are like, well, this is peer reviewed. This is all legit. Oh, and they're throwing around words like consensus when there isn't any. And, I don't know. The whole source thing, it does get ridiculous. Like you kind of almost have to assume every source to some extent is probably a little bit corrupted and use your own fucking brain to determine, to kind of wade through the filth of what is legitimate information,
Yeah.
So, all right. Let's move on.
In other countries because they couldn't find jobs.
Definitely better now. I'm glad that system, that system failed so disastrously that it's now excellent now. Shit's popping the fuck off now, dude. Very good now. Much, much, much better. I know I say no Balkan talk, but come on, okay? Come the fuck on, dude.
So one of the major internal factors.
I guess I'll give you a chance to respond to any of that. I'm not a huge foreign policy expert, so I don't really know how this country's doing. So I feel like he's not either, which is what is like ridiculous. Like, I feel like he has no fucking idea what he's referring to here at all.
Yeah, it's like, let's assume I don't know much about like Yugoslavia today, but let's assume like it's an absolute like hellhole, right? So what does that have to do? What does that have to do with what I'm saying? Like they clearly were on a very bad path after they went into market socialism from where they were, just pointing out that things might suck now too, or worse or whatever, which I don't even know if that's true. Like, I don't think does he really know anything about Yugoslavia? I don't think so.
I mean, considering I doubt he does. So
yeah,
that's kind of my barometer.
But they always do this. It's like, well, look how bad this was. And like, but it was worse when they did this. It's like, well, are you conceding? Are you conceding this was bad? Like, I don't know what you're doing here.
This is Somalia thing. This is the Somalia thing. Like, it's the Somalia meme of like, just move to Somalia. You're like, okay, well, don't you realize there was actually like a period of time where compared to their previous state, they were doing pretty fucking baller compared to like where they were under like basically what was anarchism. And then as soon as the states got involved, they went back to shit. So, I mean, compared to what? Like, I get it. It was still a hellhole. But it was less of a hellhole when there weren't countries deep or governments deep dicking them. So, I don't know what to tell you. Like, yes, it was bad. No one's debating it was bad. Like, okay. Yes, third world countries be third world countries. I don't know if you're trying to assume that when I say anarchism, I think they immediately just magically evolve like a Pokemon into a first world country. Like, no, I don't think that's how that works. So, I don't know. All right, let's move on.
Factors was distorted labor incentives. If your workplace is a democracy and not a meritocracy, you do not have incentives to perform better.
You don't have. Okay. Perform better by what metric, dude? By what metric? We never have this conversation. Every time people talk about efficiency, they're talking about efficiency from a capitalist point of view. And yes, if you look at efficiency from a capitalist point of view, obviously other kinds of organizations are probably not going to look like they're performing better. You have to look at the different kinds of metrics that help, like turnover rate, the workplace conditions, the happiness metrics, even though they're very qualitative and difficult to fucking fully comprehend. You have to look at whether a system that is designed to benefit the many rather than the few is doing a good job of exacting that, okay, what it set out to do. Also, he said meritocracy.
All right.
Yeah,
I think there's something to respond to there. I'll let you have the floor. There's a lot there. He kind of plays this like hide the ball with. Oh, well, you're saying things are going to capitalism? Well, that's under capitalist metrics. So,
yeah, this is actually a historic moment because prior to this, I never heard a leftist be like, "Well, yeah, my system sucked, but that's only using capitalist metrics." Like.
Yeah.
I've never heard someone say that because it's such a dumb thing to say. But now so many repeat that. Like, I've encountered that argument dozens of times now just since that video, when prior I'd
honestly,
never seen
though,
it.
I will say in like a certain retarded kind of way, it's actually genius. So, like, I mean, it's kind of like, well, if you just shift your perspective, like, yeah.
It's like, I literally gave like these. I showed these particular things. I'm like unemployment, workplace participation and stuff like that. And then he ignores that. And it's like, well, what does efficiency mean? Efficiency usually means more maximizing inputs, minimizing, or maximizing outputs, minimizing inputs, which is good, right? That's good for everything. That's good for the environment. That's good for everything. Like, that's literally what everybody should support. If you don't support it, you're really retarded. But somehow, like, an employment is a capitalist metric, because I guess with socialism, you don't have jobs. So it's it's all, everyone's
point,
unemployed,
really.
but that's just normal, I guess.
Yeah. No, it's pretty retarded. All right, now he's gonna move on to the meritocracy thing.
It's real, which is why I laugh. Obviously, it's not fucking real. Meritocracy is a lie. I'm a dumbass. Look at the amount of success I have. Meritocracy is a fucking lie. I work hard, okay, but I got very fortunate. Your spawn point is incredibly important for you, okay? That's why it's not that,
All right, well, let's go and stop there. I think he's gonna go in more, but I guess while it's fresh in mind, I do want to bring up he kind of did a little bit of I guess dishonest is the wrong way to put it, because whether it was intentional or not, he went from, oh well, meritocracy doesn't exist. And you're like, okay, but you're arguing for essentially anarchism, anarcho-capitalism, and he's going, oh well, fucking meritocracy doesn't exist. Like, yeah, no shit, because we're not under anarcho-capitalism. This is the thing we're aspiring for. Yes, meritocracy. I mean, I guess you can make a case it does exist in this current system, but not to the same extent. We're basically some sort of democracy of sorts right now, and yeah, meritocracy yet sort of doesn't exist. And I mean, even then, I know you would probably make the case that even in a perfect, like, even if we did become like an ANCAP society, it wouldn't be a perfect meritocracy. There would be
nobody
some, like,
believes that. It's just straw manning. It's like, oh, you think, oh, look, here's one example. It's like, well, people have 10 fingers. Actually, I have 11 fingers, so people don't have 10 fingers.
Like, you know what I can do with that extra finger and you can't? I'm like, oh.
It's like, I don't care about some outliers. I care about like the general rule for that system. And what I'm like advocating for meritocracy in the workplace. So to say, oh, meritocracy doesn't exist, and they also say stuff like meritocracy is racist, which is hilarious.
I mean, that's just you admitting that like other races just aren't as good. If that's what you're saying, it's not the win you think it is. Yeah. Yeah, it's something else to say, but I forgot. Guess we'll keep moving on. Yeah, it's just ridiculous on its face. Just the meritocracy bullshit here.
Oh, America, pound for pound, has like way more fucking billionaires than all these other countries of the Western world. Has all these like incredibly successful people because they were just so brilliant. It's because they were born in a material. Their spawn point was better than someone who was born in fucking Zimbabwe. That doesn't mean that there aren't like capable individuals in Zimbabwe if they were put through an exact same kind of system and get all the same fucking material equality and the material conditions that the American has, the average American or the average Westerner has. Doesn't mean that they're not going to fucking succeed in a similar, if not even greater capacity. Okay. It's so stupid. It's just a way for dummies to make themselves feel better. Okay. But when you're this guy, when you're fucking PraxBen, you're just, okay. An anarchist, a Hoppian, neo-reactionary. Jesus Christ.
Was distorted labor incentives. If your workplace is a democracy and not a meritocracy, if
your workplace is a democracy, you have distorted labor incentives, dude. Yeah, like what? Fucking better workplace conditions? Like
oh, you want to respond to that, and I'll let the ad play. It's actually a perfect time for an ad to drop anyways, so
yeah, I elaborated on that more in my video, because in my response video to him, because I wanted to go over more what like the paper was talking about. But like basically, people, you have voting power to benefit yourself, and that's what people focus on. They don't focus on benefiting everyone else. Yes, people are generally pretty selfish and greedy, and they want to benefit themselves more than everyone else. And when you have these worker cooperatives, people will want to screw over other people so they get those benefits rather than the others. Whereas in a traditional firm, you get that, you work your way up with higher wages and stuff like that by working better, right? Like you don't have to work better to get higher pay. You theoretically don't have to work better to get higher pay in a worker co-op. You just have to vote for it. You just have to convince people to go with that. And democracy generally has these corruptible aspects. We see it in America today. Like what's with all these like woke corporations and stuff like that? It's about democracy. Otherwise, like they wouldn't be going down most of these paths. What is the whole gay propaganda machine come from? It comes from the fact that we got government involved in marriage and then banned gay marriage, and we did other things which people really in reality should have had the right to do. And then all these crazy people, these progressives, go into self-defense mode, and they think everybody's out to get them, and so they have to take over every single institution so they can make sure they don't lose their rights and all of that. That's where all this came from. They wanted to change people's minds for voting and all that. Like it creates distorted incentives. It's just a fact, and you can see that consistently in democracies.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on.
I mean, even if we're not talking about a cooperative, you can literally take this exact same fucking argument and compare it to countries with higher rates of unionization versus countries with lower rates of unionization. Because a cooperative ultimately is enacting the interests of the many, allowing workers to have a say in the process, allowing workers to have a say in how much of the profits go back to them versus how much of the profits actually go to, like, I don't know, marketing and shit like that. It's most reductive take. That's what this does. Okay. Turning a workplace, which is an authoritarian style of governance, into something that's closer to a democracy. If you look at countries with higher unionization rates.
Do you want to touch on unionization real quick? I guess get your opinions on that, because I'll give mine real quick. I mean, not that I'm some deep thinker or anything. When it comes to unionization, I'm not necessarily for or against. Like, my issue is when unions start tapping into the power of the state to try to fucking cause issues. But like, if you're just some group of people that want to use your power to be like, hey, if this happens, then we're not going to work or whatever, sure. But the problem is once they start lobbying and doing all sorts of other weird shit, when it gets iffy for me. So I guess I'll get your opinion on that matter.
Yeah, as far as unions go, I think that actually proves my point even further, because a lot of the time what happens in unions is people who work better will get screwed over because it's collective bargaining, right? It's not individuals being able to rise up through their skills and through who they are as an individual. It's collective. So you have this group of people. Some of them are going to suck. Some of them are better, but they all have to kind of get into this equilibrium instead of being able to spread out. When you have worse workers, unions will often protect them. They'll actually protect worse workers better than they protect good workers a lot of the time. In my experience with unions, I've seen unions defend people who just sat in the bathroom all day, and they're like, oh, you have no proof of that. Well, we have video footage of her not being at her post. We have several witnesses who said she was in the bathroom, but where's your proof? But where's your proof of that? And I used to sit into union meetings and hear that, and I was like, what is wrong with these people? Like, they have video footage that she wasn't at her post, but they need proof. That is the proof, you morons. But they'll vehemently protect people. Generally, it will lower wages rather than raise wages. Because we're talking, I'm actually not going to go too much into the whole labor unions things because it's a very complex.
Yeah,
topic.
It does get weird. But, I mean, it is one of those things that, like, I know, especially earlier in my days of libertarianism, I was very much like, in my head, I thought you had to be either for or against, but I feel like there's a whole lot more nuance to it than just that. Yeah. Because there are, I mean, at the end of the day, if it's voluntary, I don't care. But the problem is once you start like pulling the power of the state into it, it gets fucking dodgy at that point, in my opinion. That's kind of where I'm at.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But, yeah.
I went into more detail on it in my response to Hasan on my YouTube channel. So if people really want to look into that, they can check that out or read the chapter on unions and economics in one lesson.
Yeah, and if you want to send me any links like to your YouTube video, I'll put them in the video description whenever I do drop this publicly.
Awesome.
But yeah, let's move on.
Their workers have significantly better benefits, and their workers are significantly happier. That's it. There you go.
If your workplace is a democracy and not a meritocracy, you do not have incentives to perform better. Now,
Perform better for who? Perform better for your boss? Amazon is a great example of this. Their efficiency is through the fucking roof, dude. But workers are pissing in bottles. Their efficiency is through the roof, but they have to have an ambulance out.
I want to say real quick, there's nothing wrong with pissing in a bottle. Been there, done that. But we'll move on.
Side of the fucking distribution center, because it's a lot cheaper to fucking, send that ambulance back and forth to the hospital than to actually pay for the fucking AC. They're performing really well though. The efficiency is high. That good? No. I feel like maybe there should be a better balance here. If only there was a way to have a say, to have a seat at the table.
All right. I just gotta say, with all this shit he's saying right there, don't take the fucking job. If to you it's that important to not piss in a bottle, don't take the fucking job. It's really that
it's
simple.
like what they don't consider is like in reality, it kind of is a democracy. Not necessarily with the workers, but with the consumers, because it's the consumers who are like, hey, this is what we want. This is what we want you to do. And people go into these jobs knowing like that's what the consumers demand. The consumers are the ones who are promised to, get these packages on a certain time and who go to Amazon because of that reason. And sometimes maybe getting that package to them on time means it's going to be much harder for you to get a bathroom break. Maybe sometime I'm a security guard. Maybe sometime me trying to make sure someone doesn't walk into a factory with a bomb means I have to wait an extra 30 minutes for someone to come relieve my post so I can go to the bathroom or go eat. This isn't freaking rocket science. You could think of many examples where something unfortunate may happen, but it's like, this is just you trying to appease the consumers. This isn't trying to appease just some boss, some guy in the sky, some guy in the office. Like, this is what the consumers are demanding. And if you don't want to try to help the consumers get what they want, then don't take that job.
And I guess for me, it's just like I've been a manual laborer like my whole life. So to hear someone be like, "Oh my god, you had to piss in a bottle," it's like, yeah. So like, okay, if that's something like if your complaint is, "Oh my god, you had to piss in a bottle," it's like, for me, it's like, God, you are so fucking mollycoddled that it's just like, I don't even know what to say to you. Like, oh no, you had to fucking bust your hump once in your life. Oh no, like okay.
Yeah, it's like, I'll gladly like go take a job where I'm making as much as Amazon employees make. What is it, freaking $16 an hour or more now? But have to pee in the bottle once. Like that would be totally chill with me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, yeah, don't do it where people can see it. But I don't know. Like, I was fucking. I've let people know I used to be active duty military. When I was deployed, I used to piss in bottles all the time. The fucking pissers would be like a goddamn mile or two away. Like, not that big of a deal. You're a dude. You have a dick. Like, okay, so what? Like, I mean, I have a little bit of sympathy if you're a chick. Like, but like for the most part, like, get the fuck over yourself. Like, human beings piss. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, this is stupid. But yeah, no, I don't know. It's just silly, the idea like, oh my god, you had to work hard. Like, yeah, like people just give away money. Like, what the fuck do you think this is? Right,
under socialism, you always have bathrooms everywhere at all times.
Yeah,
always. Like if you're driving down the road trip, like a bathroom will appear out of nowhere. That's how it works.
It's a beautiful fucking future.
I'm not like I'm not saying that the end all be all is cooperative corporations. I don't think that like everything should be a co-op. Okay, I'm not one of those individuals. But it's a good start. A lot better than fucking having an authoritarian and inarguably authoritarian way of organizing your workplace, which is what we exist under currently.
Our empirical findings reveal that long-standing labor voice in corporate governance is associated with significantly depressed shareholder value, sale growth, and job creation.
No way, dude. No way. Are you telling me that shareholder value diminishes when workers have a say, dude? What? Oh, that's it, bro. Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, on this part, he like just ignores the two other things I said. I'm like, job creation, sales growth, and he's like, I'll hyperfixate on this one thing.
Yep, he was looking for something. You can tell the way he is. It really does remind me of like being in a argument with like a catty on edge woman. He's just looking for the one thing to pounce on, and you gave it to him.
Because that's one of the major things with co-ops is, and I went over this, like, that's why I went over that several times in this video. I'm like, co-ops don't create jobs. They don't grow. They just don't. Because you have no friggin' profit to grow. Like, yeah, you can have some co-ops sometimes, and that can work fine, especially if you have a bunch of retarded socialists who need to be appeased. Hey, go start your freaking co-op. But if you want an entire economy on that, where you need more jobs and stuff like that, like, it's not going to work. They don't create jobs. They don't grow.
All right, let's move on.
Of course, shareholder value is going to decrease because that means that fucking place is redistributing.
Means people aren't going to invest in your business, retard.
Value extracted.
Yeah, do you want to expand that more? But that comment's probably enough right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
From the worker in a better, more meaningful capacity back to the fucking workers that are generating it. And therefore, yes, shareholder values are decreasing. This isn't just me who recognizes this, okay? You don't have to be a fucking commie or whatever the fuck to notice this. CEOs notice it too. After all, that's precisely why all the fucking Forbes, Fortune 500 top CEOs got together.
This is what I get. This is what I get for being good faith and like giving all of the information. Like if I wanted to kind of mess around with these people, I would leave that part out. I'd be like, oh, look at this stuff. Look at just the bad stuff. But I'm trying to give people a full picture. But that's what they do. Like that one thing. I think there's like that whole freaking story that people try to tell. They'll say it was like Einstein or whoever else, where they like write on the blackboard a bunch of complex mathematical equations, and they get all of them right, and then at the end they get one wrong, and everyone hyper fixates on that one wrong. It's sort of like that, except even worse, you know.
Yeah. No, it is something ridiculous. And you know what, like I feel like I got a vibe there of almost like you're like almost like I shouldn't have been so good faith, but you know what though, it pays off because the very fact that we're even talking about it is because of that. And that's probably part of why I end up on part of the problem, because if anyone like with reasonable, especially someone who has a slight bit of libertarian theory behind their belt, like looks at this, they go, holy fuck. Like the discrepancy between you and him here, and him being the indignant one coming at you being ridiculous, is just astounding for anyone who has a little bit of know-how. So this is why it became such a big thing as it is. So, yeah. So always keep that shit in mind, people. All right, let's move on.
Wrote a letter to say we need to shift our priorities away from increasing and improving shareholder value to increasing and improving stakeholder value, which also features community, which is like, whatever, symbolic bullshit, and also our workers. So they realize it too. They realize that wealth and income disparity and inequality has gotten to a point where workers are fucking like this.
Wait. Did he just bring up Davos and kind of like be like, oh, look at how good these people were? Or did I misread that?
Yeah, I don't know where that was. I think it said something like Switzerland or something.
Well, the Davos people, that's kind of like I'm not a huge conspiracy guy, but I know Davos, what was the fucking, God, who's that fucking Klaus Schwab? I know he's the World Economic Forum. Those people kind of always get mentioned together. I think they're kind of roughly, okay. My point being, it just seemed like he was kind of taking, the big dogs that you will, the Rothschilds, those class of people, and it kind of was borderline just like entirely taking their point. But, and kind of be like, look, even they see how great our ideas are, which is like, wait, what? Those aren't the people you really want to be name dropping here. But maybe I'm misreading it. I don't know.
Actually, I'm on the sides of the rich people. So even the rich people agree with me. ANCAP owned. ANCAP completely pawned.
Yeah. The world lenders, the one who lend the money to all the fucking countries, even they see the utility in our argument. It's like, okay, pal. Okay. I'll let you have that win, I guess.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, maybe I misheard that. I just heard Davos and my fucking spidey sense went off real quick. All right, we'll move on.
Sucks. This fucking sucks. I'm going to go into Home Depot with 10 of my homies, and we're going to steal as many hammers as we can so we can go fucking rob the goddamn Louis Vuitton store and maybe, make more money for Chris.
That's called egoism, guys.
I don't even know what he's on.
I don't know
what he's talking about.
I don't know what the fuck he's talking about here. Like he's just doing this straw man. I think he's doing the straw man of anarchism here. Of like, oh, we'll do what the fuck we want. Like, okay, like that's not what we're describing, but okay. But yeah, all right, we'll pop back in.
Rent. I cannot believe that capitalists got together and said that socialist organizations of the workplace, or cooperative organizations of the workplace that try to place the material conditions of the worker above those who do not actually add value, those workplaces are not as efficient under capitalist metrics of success. That's crazy.
Wait. You mean capitalists are incentivized to treat workers good? What? That's crazy. That's crazy, man. Wow, he sure beat my entire worldview with that one.
Yeah.
I love it because they always do this. They always like say this one thing and then they say something else entirely. It's like, how do you contradict yourself so hard, man? Like I saw this TikTok video of this socialist and he was like yesterday, and he was like, yeah, like what do you think, under socialism, if the doctors are being paid less, like they wouldn't do like as much. Like obviously they're doing this because they want to and not because they're greedy and they want to make a profit. Like they always they do the thing where they're like, oh no, not everybody wants to make a profit. They just some people want to help the community and stuff like that. But then as soon as like you're making arguments like, but everyone's just like the private police, they're gonna work for China because they pay them more and they just care about profit. They're gonna abandon all of their family and everybody and just kill their own people because of profit. And then the capitalists, all they care about is profit. They can't possibly have an ounce of compassion in them. The people only have compassion when I say they do.
Yeah, no, shit's ridiculous. All right, let's move on. This is funny.
Investment, capital expenditure, R&D spending, and high-risk investments in general. The thing is, the average person isn't willing to make high-risk investments. So when you democratize the workplace, that's going to be reflected in the decision.
No way, that's terrible. That's terrible, dude. What? No high-risk investments? What the fuck, dude? That sucks. Bro, this motherfucker's literally saying when workers have a say in the seat of the table on what to do with the profits that they generate through their labor, if workers have a say in what to do with the profits of the company, they end up saying, hey, maybe we should spend some of that we generated back on ourselves. And also,
I wanted to hold off. Let me finish it. I was just chomping the bit. This is so fucking retarded. Because his argument here is that, like, oh my God, this will deter people from making high risk investments. And it's just like this assumed thing that high risk investments are bad.
Yeah, it's like if they were bad, then people wouldn't do it. Like the whole point is like someone is smart and they know how to make a high risk investment and not freaking fail, not be on the losing end of that, right? Like if they're experienced, if they've gone through this, if they've gone for school for this or whatever, like with the average person, they not only can't do that, but they're not going to want to.
It's just such a smooth brain take. It's just like high risk investment bad. Like, okay.
And of course like, he ignores.
You don't think there's maybe a high risk, high reward that's literally never a thing you've ever heard in your fucking life? Like you don't think maybe there's like a reason why? Like maybe there's certain people are suited to this type of thing. Like okay.
It's crazy because I even gave an example like just then, but he ignored it. Like I said, less R&D spending, but of course, that never happened. He just totally missed that part.
Yeah, like maybe there'd be a certain person whose time and resources could be devoted to market research and understanding what investments are sound and which aren't, even though it's technically maybe a high risk, but he has a good idea of the market and where things would go. But no, we'll just trust the fucking dude that measures the wood at 18 inches and cuts it every fucking time. Like, okay, that makes fucking sense. But I don't know. And I say that as someone who was the guy who did that shit. So like, yeah, I wouldn't fucking know. Like, okay. I don't know. It's this one was probably the most ridiculous thing that stood out to me in the entire thing. It's so fucking retarded. But all right, let's move on.
So high risk investments have obviously never caused chaos. I assume PraxBen was born in 2009, so he's unaware of anything that has happened throughout.
Okay, all right. I mean, like, 10 seconds. Like we're probably going to finish this video tonight because this is retarded. It's getting more and more ridiculous. He applies high risk investment to the 2008 crisis. I'll let you take it away, Ben.
Well, it's like, but who was? It's not high risk investments. It's bad investments. Like it's just blatantly bad investments. And it's like, and then why were those bad investments made? Maybe because they basically not only screwed up the market and screwed up the signals that help people make good investments, but they also kind of put people into situations where they had no choice, where they had to do these loans out to people who wouldn't be able to pay them back and stuff like that. Like he has no understanding of the 2008 crisis. That's I don't know, man. This anti-investment thing, like I've never heard anybody else have that position.
No, it is just like Hasan is such a great straw man for the other side. It's like I almost feel bad fucking with him because he's so fucking retarded. It's rough. All right, let's move on.
History since then. Prioritizing safety and workplace conditions and better benefits for the workers that ultimately generate the profits regardless and create all the value is the appropriate way to go forward. It might not be the most efficient way from a capitalist mode of production standpoint, but it's still the right thing to do. It's the fair, more importantly than that, it's the fair thing to do.
Higher time preference, and capitalists generally have a lower time preference. So owners are willing to make these high-risk investments that will bring in high rewards down the road. This results in more growth and job creation.
Yeah, totally, dude. Owners wanting to improve shareholder value and boards and corporations wanting to consistently grow and consistently increase shareholder value has been great for the American working class. Oh,
yes.
My God.
All right, yeah, that's a good spot to stop. All right, you go on. You're already chomping, I can tell.
I mean, literally, literally, yes. Like he's not even like directly addressing what I'm saying. I'm making points about job growth and stuff like that. Like, if you make good investments and get more profit out of those, and you're gonna be growing more, you're gonna be expanding more, creating new jobs. Like that's like what the fourth time I mentioned jobs in that video, and he's not touched that once. He won't
knew?
touch
Maybe
that
we
with a
should please
15th
investors. But go on, sorry.
And yeah, like friggin' co-ops don't get investors. People don't invest in co-ops.
Yeah,
because they don't get their money back. Like investments get a lot of businesses going. Like how do you get your freaking business going when you don't have capital? Like they can't comprehend these things.
The Lord will provide. All right. Yeah, no, it is such a retarded take because it's at its vein. It's like, well, fuck those rich people. Those rich people who are fucking making this literally happen. So, okay. Like, yes, I get it. They make profit, but if they didn't make profit, why would they give a fuck about what we're doing? Like, it's the only thing that makes them care in the first place. Like, it's just such a retarded, like, look on how things work. But, all right, let's move on.
God, so good. That's why when you go to Syracuse, for example, it's a wonderful, robust city. That's
what's great
economy
is like
when you go.
I don't know why he brought up like Syracuse out of everything, but I had just moved from Syracuse when I made that video. And Syracuse is like filled to the brim with left wingers, and there's like so many socialists there, and like it was the government that like screwed everyone over. Like it wasn't friggin' high risk investments. Like I don't know like why he thinks it was like some evil capitalist in friggin' top hats that ruined Syracuse. Like you ask anyone there and everybody knows what happened. Everybody knows like who ruined it. Like it's just he has no clue what he's talking about.
No, it was just his go-to. Like it wasn't. It was literally just like a preloaded, like it's the NPC thing. It was like the preloaded if then, like fucking like program thing. Like that was his go-to. I don't know why, but he was fixated on Syracuse at that point in time, and that was his go-to.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if you had been having it back and forth, you probably could have had some go-to to fucking come back at him with. Although I say that, but it really would have been more like a Charlie Kirk type that would have a preloaded go-to of the opposite. Whereas like people like me and you we like kind of interact like human beings, and we go like, well, what do you mean there? And like it almost like to some extent to normies discredits us because we don't have an immediate knee-jerk fucking preloaded response of like, well, if you look at this city,
yeah, it's like, what about this ultra specific example that you know nothing about? This completely debunks your entire point. And it's like, let me look into it. How do I know you're telling the truth? You could just be lying. Like, well, what about this anarcho-communist society that had 10 million people in it and survived for 4,000 years? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I gotta look into this, you know?
There are like literally a million factors that play into this that would like we could argue about. So like,
that's one of the reasons theory is important, though. Like,
Yes.
even if they bring up these dumb, like, empirical examples that you know nothing about, you can just argue, like, well, this can't possibly be true.
Yeah, like let's dig into this. I'm like, no, don't dig into it. Okay, all right, let's move on.
Go to anywhere in the fucking Rust Belt. Go to West Virginia, for example. Oh man, owners creating so many more fucking jobs out there. It's sick. It's sick. Oh wait, that didn't happen because they fucking moved manufacturing overseas. No, that isn't happening because they wanted to improve their margins. They wanted to increase shareholder value. And that's precisely what happened. Look at Detroit. Everywhere else, everywhere in the wealthiest nation on earth, we have fucking ghost towns. We have been prioritizing the interests of the wealthy that never even stepped foot in the fucking factory floor. Okay, and that could be all of you.
I don't get the reference to the stepping from the factory floor. To be honest with you,
it's like he thinks, you know, like the Lego movie, like President Business. He thinks that's what they're all like, you know.
Yeah.
He gets his he gets his like views on production and capitalism from cartoons. That's about it.
Well, I mean, even then though, even from that perspective, these are people trying to make money, and I guess for his perspective, like that's bad. But it's like, okay, well, he's trying to find things to invest in. It's like, what is the alternative? Like people who just want to give away their money? Like what kind of weird fucking utopia is this? Like.
Yeah, it's like, what about like the small businesses and stuff? Like he's hyper fixating on like large multinational corporations, and ANCAPs don't even support that because we know it's much harder for them to get that big in an actual free market when they don't have patent protections and subsidies and all that.
Yeah, that is funny because he does really lean on the like corporatist. Like, I mean, maybe it's just because, I mean, to be fair to him, I guess libertarianism gets us like parody of being like Ayn Randian. But it's like once you really get into it, especially now, past like post COVID or whatever the fuck, like a lot of libertarians are not about that life. Like a lot of us have moved on. Like we learned the error of our ways. For those who actually did ascribe to that in the time of COVID, we're like, oh yeah, fuck the corporations. Like, and that's because they are bastard fucking like children of the government. Essentially, is what they are.
Right.
So, yeah, but I guess we can move on. Leave it someone else say.
And even myself in some meaningful capacity, because this is just a financialized economy. There's nothing else to do. If you want to even have a nest egg, if you don't want to work for the rest of your fucking life, you have to get a 401k, for example, because we don't even have social safety nets. We don't even have adequate social safety nets for people who are no longer productive laborers, okay? In that system, we prioritize people that are putting money into the stock market rather than people who are actually doing the productive labor. It's hilarious. He's basically arguing that worker co-ops are bad because they don't do capitalism as well. Such an inherent bias from the super rational objective, dude. That's precisely what he's doing here.
They found that worker.
I don't know if you want to address any of that. I mean, that was a lot.
I mean, like, he's just again like saying all this stuff about the modern U.S. economy, which of course has issues. Like our government introducing welfare and stuff like that. They basically outlawed the fraternal societies and stuff like that we had before. That took care of a lot more people than welfare did. So yeah, like I'm not advocating for our current system of some welfare and all that stuff. Like no, I want a very welfare filled society with mutual aid and fraternal societies and stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on.
Cooperatives tended to have lower pay, and worker cooperatives were constrained by financial difficulties, management inexperience, and interpersonal rivalry.
This is the funnest Gish Gallop I've ever engaged in.
See, there we go.
Go through every.
Go ahead.
He's like, I'm like, they had lower pay, and he's like, this is a Gish Gallop. This is a Gish Gallop. I'm not gonna.
You said like 12 things at me. But go on.
Yeah, I mean,
Because a gish
he's
gallop,
not
that's
gonna
what a gish
address
gallop
that.
is, right? I believe, if I remember correctly, a gish gallop is the idea of the dishonest argument tactic where they throw multiple things at you at once, which is a weird thing to say in this context. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. It's been a while since I've looked into these logical. I know it's more of an ism. I've heard people use the gish gallop where they throw multiple things at you. Maybe that's something else. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, gish gallop is like kind of having a usually memorized thing where you just cover a ton of things where it's like basically too much for people to respond to.
Yes.
And typically at that point, you're like making fun of them for not responding, right? It's usually not just like throwing some stuff out there. It's like I'm doing a video, right? I'm not. It's usually in debate. I'm doing a video.
Exactly, which is why my point where it's weird to call this a gish gallop. Like you're not in a debate. Like you're not throwing 12 things at him to respond to.
And that was like
once.
what, 3 things?
It wasn't. I mean, it might have been like 2.
Yeah, I'm like, it might have been technically one thing. I was just expanding on that one thing because I'm like lower wages, and then I'm expanding on that, and then he says it's a gish gallop because he's not going to address it. Like he's not going to be like, oh yeah, lower wages. Maybe it's because of this. Maybe it's because of that. You know, this isn't a good thing. Maybe we can.
Bro,
fix
you can't
this.
expect me to respond to 2 things at once. Go on. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm good.
No, it is a very retarded use of gish gallop here. So we'll go on.
Every single one of these, or every single one of these fucking journals that he is citing here. But once again, the journals he's citing are looking at socialized workplaces from a capitalist mode of production standpoint. So of course, the metrics that they've designed.
I just gotta say, like,
of wages is a capitalist metric.
I just gotta say, like, it's so retarded that it's fucking genius. Because it's like, it really is. Like, to some extent, you're like, all right, respect. Because this is like a retarded, bulletproof argument to like any fucking thing against socialism. Like, bro, you're just using capitalist metrics. You're like, yeah, I guess
they're
so.
literally not making as much money. They can't afford as much to live. That's just a capitalist metric, man. Like you're not looking at like how much ownership they have or like a socialist metric, you know.
I mean, I guess technically you're right. Like if that's we're defining capitalist metric.
No, like yeah, I agree with him. I agree with him. Like yes, higher wages is a capitalist thing. Like yes, more jobs is a capitalist. I agree. Great job, Hasan. He's a genius.
Yeah, by socialist metrics, it'd be fucking dope if they were starving. Like, okay, like sure. I guess by this weird fucking way you're framing it, yeah. Like, okay, but all right, let's. It just is so retarded.
The game for are going to be for capitalist metrics, but not only that, but also the last thing I was going to say is like there aren't that many worker cooperatives. The way that our economy works is that there aren't that many worker cooperatives. The idea that they're getting paid lower wages is a falsehood. Even unions, which are more or less an entry point, okay? Yeah. Unions.
Go on.
They're like, yeah, he debunked it. I forgot that he actually sort of does address it, but that's the best he could do is just say, no, it's not true. It's not true because
because
it can't possibly be true. That data has been replicated multiple times. Also,
that's like referring to theory for empirical things, being like, you know, I know it says here, but fucking theory, dog. Like, okay.
Yeah, like this is not only is this stuff predicted by the Austrian economists hundreds of years ago, like von Bauwerk, all these things, they were predicted by him, but this is data that is replicated in multiple countries in multiple periods of times. Like I saw people in his comments like complaining one of the papers was from 1995. Like I'm literally showing several papers from different periods and different areas that all have the exact same results, and that's consistent with all of the literature on this subject.
Like, bro, his fucking study is 25 years old. Get the fuck out of here. Like, okay. It is funny how people think the world works, but yeah, let's move on.
And there is a million different kinds of empirical studies conducted on this. Universally increase your wages. Unions not only increase the wages and also improve the workplace benefits for all the workers that are recently unionized or unionized in general, but they also tend to have a 10%.
Usually bras fit small.
All right, if you have anything to say, I'll mute it.
Yeah, of course he like changes the entire subject to unions instead of co-ops because he couldn't defend the co-op position. Yeah, I addressed the union stuff in depth. I hate talking about unions, but you can listen to me talk about it in my response video on my YouTube, where I kind of disprove what he's talking about, and I go into more detail. Because you can basically disprove him on the fact that he's just doing a correlation causation fallacy.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on.
Wages across the board in that similar sector. Okay, so this idea that unions or more democracy in the workplace is a burden on people's wages, it works in a depressive capacity, is completely false.
And worker cooperatives made a modest, if any, contribution to the creation of new and good jobs. Yes, people make
What new and good jobs? What is new and good jobs? You can't just be like fucking throwing out when you're looking at a study and you're reading out the conclusion of a study from like child murder pedophilia university's blood sucking parasite study on capitalism is so poggers. You can't just like look at that and be like, oh, they're good and new jobs. What the fuck does that mean? What's a good job?
Like
not creating those CEOs or something? Like what the fuck? What?
Yes, I'm gonna say.
It's like I had it right there. You could have read it, and I was like reading it out exactly. And again, that's like the fifth time. That's the fifth time I mentioned jobs. But Hasan apparently doesn't like jobs.
All right. Now, I want to say real quick, I get this is an argument, and this is me just like kind of playing his game a little bit. But holy fuck, those nails! Like I don't know, it's hard to take someone seriously when they have like painted fingernails as a dude. I mean, it'd be one thing if he was making good points. I would be able to ignore it. He's like making awful points and that.
Yeah, he takes time out of his day to sit down and paint his nails. Like,
which
great.
It'd be one thing if you were a genius. Like if you were like actually making really points. So I was like, okay, I haven't thought about it that way. Then I'd be like, okay, and I'd probably just not even think of it. But you're already making the worst arguments as it is, and I'm like, look at this motherfucker with faggoty ass nails. But yeah, sorry. All right, let's move on. It's just so distracting. Like it's hard to pay attention to his arguments because they're so bad that I end up finding myself looking at his nails. So
wait, I don't understand. The only way that like wages could decrease technically in a more democratized workplace would be if the CEO wages and the upper level management wages are lowered because that's what they voted on.
Democracy doesn't work. Look at our last two presidents, Joe Biden and Donald Trump. You really want to bring that kind of decision making to the workplace?
Why is an anarcho-capitalist claiming that democracy doesn't work? You're so pro-capitalist that there's no anarcho left in it, which is, of course, anarcho-capitalism is oxymoronic regardless.
Dude, I don't even get what he's getting at with there. Did you follow that?
Like democracy is anarchism. Like I'm like Donald Trump and Joe Biden. He's like, well, but you call yourself an anarchist and you're against Trump and Biden. It's like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about,
I can't even stoop my mental acuity to that level, and I'm not that smart. So like I don't get what he's even getting at here, like at all.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like I'm trying to like maybe if like from an anarcho-communist perspective, I could maybe sort of buy this, but even then it's fucking retarded. So
but he's not that. He's like almost a tanky, but he's too dumb to actually be a tanky,
Yeah.
Like he doesn't actually know about the subjects, but he would be if he was smart enough.
Yeah. All right, let's move on.
Anarchism and capitalism clearly do not work because there's no voluntary cooperative fucking way of working in a capitalist workplace. He's literally also making an argument entirely on the side of authoritarianism and fascism. He's just like straight up a fucking fash.
What does he mean by authoritarianism? Did you follow that? Like, where is the authoritarianism here? He's just
I'm like
it.
pointing out that people like voting on who's going to be in charge like tends to lead to bad results.
I guess this kind of goes to my earlier point where I brought up that like we're just operating on different paradigms where he's operating off the like private property is not a thing or property in general. But although I feel like if you asked him, he wouldn't say that. He wouldn't say that he doesn't believe in property. He would just have some weird airy-fairy way of going about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like they I mean, I guess he does believe this, but they typically don't believe you vote on like personal property. Like they believe in an authoritarian relationship with personal property, but that doesn't mean they support fascism or they support authoritarianism. Like That's just stupid. Like they never consider that. It's like they're like, oh, we're against all hierarchies, like the ANCOMs, except for the hierarchy over your personal property, apparently.
Yeah, no, it does get weird. All right, let's move on.
Just openly admitting that.
Where it suddenly becomes a popularity contest instead of someone who's good at investment, good at business, and has
Popularity contest versus someone who's good at investment and good at business. Again, throwing idiotic fucking terms in there that make no sense whatsoever. Someone who's good at investment. Someone who's good at investment is just someone who has a lot of fucking capital, brother. Okay? Someone who has a lot of fucking capital.
How the fuck do they get capital? So
Came out of thin
goddamn
air, man.
dumb. All right, sorry. You can go on. I'll give you the floor.
No, I'm good. I'm not even gonna bother with that one.
It's just, oh yeah, that, like these people have a lot of capital. They don't know how to handle a lot of capital at all. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. All
Like
right,
it's like good at investment. Like that's not that complicated. Him freaking out and saying that's complicated. Like I don't know. Like I don't understand. Like it's like
Yeah.
good at investment. You know that you can think about that and be like, okay, it means
Like
they are good, above average at investing. When it's investing, it's like choosing
just
where to
this-
put your money to make more money.
It's just this weird blind spot for him where you can't even understand the idea that like people who have attained a lot of money know how to continue to attain more money. Like it makes no sense. Like, and especially like he can still make the case they're evil while still conceding that. It's just that like you can't even concede that. Like they know how to continue to make money. I don't know. What are you talking about? And I don't know. I don't know. I guess that spurred me a little bit. All right, let's move on.
Capital can be good at investment. How? They put $10,000 into every single fucking VC, every single startup that they can, with the hopes that there's going to be a fucking whale in there. Gary Vaynerchuk is a good at investment.
All right. We'll be at like 10 seconds. That fucking irritates me. The idea that like, well, they would just put money in everything. Like, okay, well, then wouldn't that just be a wash? Like, there has to be some level of intelligence of where they're putting
It's like,
their money.
Who does that? Like, can you actually give me an example? He says Gary V does that. I don't think Gary V does that. I think Gary V's a bit smarter with his money than that.
I don't
like-
think he invests in literally everything.
Yeah, he doesn't go around and go like, oh, let me find every startup. Like people go to Gary V all the time, like invest in this, and he's like, no, fuck up, get away, no,
So
not
dumb.
investing in that. Like
Oh my
Shark
God.
Tank, right? He should just watch freaking Shark Tank, and not everybody who walks in there gets a bunch of investments. They want to hear about their business. They want to know like how profitable it is. They want to hear the results. They want everything, you know. They want to know more about that market. They want to know everything. They don't invest in everybody. They're being careful with their money. They're making actual investments. And of course, those don't always pan out. But they do most of the time because those people are good at making investments.
Yeah, which I mean, apparently that's not a skill one can ever attain, according to his son. So let's move on.
Investment, Andy, someone who's good at business. Even fucking Warren Buffett, who is one of the most prolific and best investors in the fucking game, has openly talked about how no hedge fund, not a single hedge fund, could beat the market over 2 decades or over a single decade because they just can't. You can have good returns on a single year, and then you can fucking have major losses in another. You can't outcompete the market, no matter how good of an investor you are. No matter how good.
You go ahead.
I said, no, that's crazy. That's
almost
insane.
like
You mean it doesn't always work? Wow.
Yeah, the invisible hand of the market. Whoa. All right, let's move on.
At business you are. Wait, would you like to hear one
why is healthcare-
37
healthcare in
IQ
America-
ANCAP? How to fix healthcare?
are so expensive, and what should we do about it? The main reason is a lack of competition. We have very few doctors, much less doctors than we actually need.
Okay. I mean,
Before
med school.
if you can pause this
I'm on
one.
board with that. Let's make med school free. I think that's a good way to do that.
Did you say pause?
Yeah, but before we go into this, like in this video, I don't make like an ANCAP argument. I don't like make some anti-socialist argument. I go in there and I'm like, here's some actual problems that everybody should be able to agree on. Like these are the people who make their entire personality like, oh, I'm against monopolies and big business and stuff like that. everything I say they should agree on, but somehow Hasan finds a way to disagree on almost everything I say. These very clear things. Like first, what did I say there? I said there's not enough competition, and now I don't know. He's ranting about that.
Well, he's just an insufferable cunt, to be honest with you. This is why. I mean, we'll obviously we're gonna continue, but yeah, he I mean, like I brought up earlier, he's just like a catty woman. Like he literally is just looking for things to pounce on, and not even like trying to like even like use intelligence to be like give like a good faith interpretation of anything you say whatsoever. So the first thing you even like is a trigger word, he'll jump on. But let's go on.
Free med school, free college in general.
One of the reasons for this is the American Medical Association works on limiting the amount of medical schools and the graduates for those medical schools.
Dude, what? Yo, I love the American Enterprise Institute, dude. My man's like, you know what we need to do? We need more chiropractors with MDs, okay? That's what we need to do. Lower the restriction on who can be a doctor. So what about all these other countries where there are more doctors per capita than the United States? Do they?
Okay, there's so much stupidity here. So I went into more detail again in my response video, but like right here, he's like, I point out that they try hard to like limit the amount of doctors and limit the amount of medical schools, which is true. That's something everyone should be against. At least people like Vosh was able to admit this, because Vosh did a response to Foundation of Economic Education, one of their healthcare videos, and he hears this argument about the American Medical Association. He's like, oh, let me look this up, see if it's true. He looks it up, and he's like, yeah, this is true. So yeah, I'm against this. This is ridiculous. You know, I agree with the libertarians on this, because every freaking person would. It's obvious. It's just cronyism. Everybody hates that. Right. And then he tries to make it seem like it's about them trying to quality control, which is not the case. And he's here saying, oh, we should just deregulate, you know, what it takes to become a doctor, which I agree with. But I never make this argument because my video was not making libertarian arguments. I was making arguments that everyone would agree with. Now, right here, he's like, oh, what about all these countries with more doctors? Well, all of these countries have less qualifications than the US does to be a doctor. And I went over the data for this in my video. All of them have, it's cheaper to become a doctor, the licenses and stuff like that. And there's much less regulations. All of these ones that I know of, I can't think of a single country with more regulations on being a doctor than the US has. And this literally like proves my point. This is even like a freaking like Radio Free Europe. This is like a super anti-socialist citation he's giving here. Yeah, like I don't know, man. He has no clue what he's talking about.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's been the through thread or through thread.
Even his chat is like agreeing with me. They realize how stupid he's being.
Yeah.
They have less restrictive processes on who gets to become a doctor. Is that how that works? It's the union.
Yes, literally. Yes.
Why? What about the NHS? What about all of the fucking European countries where
them too, especially the European countries? I think it's Denmark that has the less restrictions on being a doctor, and Denmark is really freaking good doctors. But yeah, the NHS definitely does, and you know, most of these countries, if you get a license for being a doctor, it covers the entire nation, whereas in the US you have things by state. It costs like $10,000 every couple of years to maintain a license in every single state.
Let's be real. If we're being realistic, the motherfucker you go to that you just like, I have X, Y, and Z issue and not an emergency, and you just go see the clinic or whatever, and you have a problem. The idea that motherfucker needs to do 7 years of school for something your run-of-the-mill adult could probably just figure out on his own is astounding. And the idea, like, I don't know, I cannot imagine the medical system in like an anarchist society or even a minarchist society, how much better it would be, because it is ridiculous the idea of like how medical things work. Because I can't tell you like how often it's like 99 times out of 100 when someone just goes to like the clinic, it's some shit that if you just told your reasonably intelligent individual like what the problems are, they just be like, well, just do this and this, you're fine. Take a couple of goddamn ibuprofens, you probably have a sprained ankle. Okay, move on. Like, and the idea we have to have this motherfucker who does that has to have a goddamn doctorate is astounding to me. So I don't know. And don't get me wrong, I get it. And then people are like, well, what about the people at ER? These are two different people we're talking about. Wouldn't it make sense for this to be like someone who's done their time, proved themselves in a meritocracy to be good in those
Uh-oh. Jose is frozen. There we go.
Go ahead. Are you there?
Yeah, you were frozen. Or I was frozen.
Fuck,
Someone was
dude.
frozen.
Oh, God, I hope I didn't lose it. I had a good little fucking spurg there. Just like, I was making the point that I don't see why fucking the medical system can't be like trades, where it's just something you learn as you go.
Yeah.
Well, I fucking hope that wasn't lost. You can hear me now, right?
Yep.
Okay, well, fucking let's move on. God damn it. I'll have to watch this later, see what got missed. All right.
Apple. What's going on? Is it because they deregulated? No.
Another way in which competition is employed is certificate of need laws. With these laws, you have to provide proof to your federal or state government that your hospital or hospital equipment is needed. For example, if I want to add 200 more beds to my hospital, I have to prove that I need those 200 beds instead of just being able to freely buy them. Or if I want to build a new hospital, a second hospital in an area so it can compete and have competitive prices, I have to prove it's actually needed. Now, one hospital may provide for the needs of the community, but then they can just end up having a monopoly in that community and charge high prices. But if someone is able to build a second hospital, then they can compete.
We need to deregulate hospitals is like not the, I mean, this is your brain on libertarianism. This dude is actually one step removed from talking about the baby marketplace. Okay. Yeah, guys, instead of having a monopoly in one individual area with hospitals, we need to have a duopoly. Okay. That would be so much better. Oh, wait, that already happens. But okay. What we need to do is build hospitals with no regulation. Like, why would the hospitals cut prices, dude? More supply would mean that the prices would be cut. Why would they do that? They have no incentive to do that. They will never do that. There's inelastic demand, brother. You know,
yeah, there's a lot to unpack here.
Go ahead.
So I am not making libertarian arguments. I'm making arguments everybody should agree with. I'm arguing against certificate of need laws. There is no way that a socialist can defend these, but he's doing it somehow. Like, I'm saying, I literally explained it very clearly. I'm like, these laws say that I can't go and buy more beds. I have to get the government's permission. These laws say that I can't go build another hospital. I have to get the other hospital I'm competing with permission. When did I say, let's deregulate everything about the hospital? Do I agree with that? Yes. But he could at least address what I'm saying in this video, which is very, very good stuff.
That's actually a good point. Is he's not interacting with your argument. He's interacting with your worldview.
Yeah,
and this shows the dishonesty of him because he's just assuming your worldview. Because he has this preloaded what an ANCAP is. So
he doesn't want to be sitting here agreeing with me. And if he used his brain for 5 seconds, he would be agreeing with literally everything I'm saying. But then he goes on this tirade like, "Oh, so you're just saying you want duopolies?" It's like, no, I was giving an example that like you can have a monopoly and then someone can't build another hospital to compete. What if it's 3 hospitals? Like,
the funny thing is too is you make a good point that like assuming he has some sort of consistent commie socialist or whatever the fuck kind of worldview he has, because I think you can be consistent and be wrong. So like let's say he has some sort of consistent worldview, he could totally just be like, yeah, I agree with him here, and this is why, and blah blah blah. Yeah. But I don't agree with where this would lead, or whatever. He could be completely reasonable and interact with like that, but he just finds himself inflexively or reflexively just fucking like just being against anything you say and finding some weird convoluted way to justify it. So yeah, it's ridiculous. It shows that he has no real consistent worldview, and like being consistent, like I said, you can still be wrong and be consistent. It's just
he's literally saying here that monopolies don't make things more expensive, that if you have competition it's not going to bring prices down. Like I went over the empirical evidence for this in the certificate of need laws in my response video to him. There's so much of it, and I showed plenty of evidence that that's the case. But then he brings up inelastic demand. He's like, well, yeah, this means that they're not going to bring down their prices. Leftists have no clue what inelastic demand is. Like, inelastic demand literally just means if you change your price by 1%, there's going to be a less than 1% change in demand, which means, yes, you can charge a lot if you're a monopoly. So, like, quite literally, his inelastic demand argument, like, backs me up even more, because I like, if you have a monopoly on a very elastic product, like a freaking a light up tutu, right? Not a lot of people want to buy this light up tutu. It's not a necessity, but some people might be interested in it, right? This light up tutu. So, if I'm like, hey, I'm going to charge like $5,000 for this, everyone's gonna be like, no, like, we don't need it. We don't demand it that much. I'm going to get rid of my entire consumer base. Maybe I can increase the price a little bit, but then still lose too many consumers to actually justify that. But if it's inelastic, then yeah, I can increase the price by quite a bit while still maintaining a large consumer base and therefore making a much larger profit. But I can't do that if I have a bunch of competition. So they always like make this argument that, okay, inelastic means you have to nationalized, which means monopolized. But it's literally the exact opposite. Inelastic means you want more, not less. Nationalizing something that's inelastic is the worst thing you can possibly do.
Yeah. All right, let's move on.
Con 101 course, micro and macroeconomic principles. You took both of those courses probably, or at least you're acting like you did. You learned about inelastic.
You guys say I only went to college for a semester. Are there really macro and micro fucking economics? Because the idea that's even a thing fucking irritates me, because they're the goddamn same thing. If that makes sense. Like the same principles apply on the lower level should apply on the upper level. So
yeah, I mean, it's funny because he just like basically dismissed the law of supply and demand and then said I should know what inelastic demand. Like, inelastic demand literally fits in with the law of supply and demand, but he just dismisses it. Like, okay.
I don't know. I mean, maybe that is the thing. I mean, the macro thing fucked me up, because it's like, maybe that's just a Keynesian thing. Because I don't know, from Austrian perspective, it's like, I mean, you can just apply the same thing on the lower level and it'll apply on the upper level. Like, you don't have to have a separate goddamn thing going on, because it's a consistent fucking theory. But whatever.
Demand. How do you get providers of a good or a service or a commodity with inelastic demand to behave in a way that yields the best possible results? Can't do that. Oh, you just open up the supply. That's how you do it. Oh, like that is not. It's not going to happen.
There's been many studies on certificate of need laws that show very bad effects. We do not need these. We need to get rid of these.
How about I don't know, looking at any number of studies conducted on this matter, not from the point of view of like deregulation, but actually from the point of view of socialization. Okay, it's like impossible to look at this.
I do got to point out, you brought up a good point earlier, that like that's not even what you're arguing for here. You're not even. I mean, I guess maybe you can make a case that like,
I mean, that is deregulation, but it's not like unreasonable deregulation.
Yeah, it's just like we're talking about this one thing, and you're like, you brought it to this whole fucking binary here, and it's like, bro, we're not even talking about that. But
it's like, from the point of view of this, it's like it's looking at both points of view. That's the whole point. That's what a comparison is. Like, but he said there's like some studies on nationalizing healthcare, and that makes it better. I couldn't find a single one on that, so I don't know what he's talking about.
He's astoundingly fucking retarded, to be honest with you. But let's move on.
Subject, and not find a single fucking study that shows that socializing healthcare or nationalizing healthcare yields better results. How did you avoid all of that and go
on?
I just said there's none.
Yeah.
He's like, you avoided them. No, they just didn't exist, because it's not a thing. If they do exist, then they're really badly done, because that can't possibly be true.
Yeah. So I want to say what I said earlier when he's astoundingly retarded. What I mean is, like, he's so dumb, it's impressive. And it's like, it's also impressive in the fact that he can like put on the act and regurgitate these things over and over again. But it's almost like you look and you evaluate these ideas coming out of his head, and you're like, there's no like actual like critical thought being like happening here. Like, these are just like points you're regurgitating out of your mouth hole, and that's it. Like, I mean, that's how I perceive it. It's impressive to see It's almost like it's almost like when they finally unveil like artificial intelligence and you see it happening, you're like, well, it's not quite human, but it's there. It's almost there. You know, like you know what I mean? Like there's like points of logic coming through here, but they're disparate and don't make sense. So yeah. All right, let's move on.
Go straight to the American Enterprise Institute. That's about like a very weird random way to just like fucking lower healthcare prices by like 10 cents. I really don't understand how I mean, good for him. He must have searched long and hard for this.
More examples of restricted competition leading to higher prices is drug patents. We should not have drug patents.
Wait, okay, I agree with this one. So
Yeah, he
props.
disagrees with
1 second. Go on. Sorry.
I did what? Certificate of Need laws, and what was the first one again?
I don't know.
The American Medical Association, right?
Yeah.
This logic it's all the same. It's all like more competition, less monopolies. Deregulate to have more competition, less monopolies, but he somehow agrees with one but not the others. Doesn't make any sense. It's just because this one was
drugs.
much harder for him to straw man on, because I made it like
that, and it's fucking
too
drugs.
clear.
It's on too many points for his lefty brain. You're like, fucking
Yeah.
drugs, dog. Like, don't get me wrong, I love drugs, but like it's just funny if it's a lefty that like.
I know he was like
thing.
wanting to say something against it, but he's like, I can't possibly say anything against this.
Yeah, it's hitting on too many. So let's move on.
Oh, respect.
Especially on necessary and life-saving drugs. There is no reason that you should have a monopoly on a life-saving drug.
Wait a minute, but like that's the only reason why people do innovative things is because they want to fucking maintain their patent, and it's their profits to have. Like this contradicts his.
I mean, I don't know where you're at. I would assume. I just assume. I know you're younger, so maybe I'm wrong. And like IP is one of those things you get by. Like it seems to be like it's a weird fucking hurdle for a lot of people. I don't believe in IP. I'm assuming you don't. I mean, I guess let me know if you do.
I'm a hardcore Kinsella on this one.
Yes. Okay. Cool.
So like his thing. Yeah. He was so bothered by agreeing with me that he had to just make something up out of thin air and pretend I agreed with that thing he just made up. It's insane.
I mean,
like,
I'll give him credit. I guess usually more the amateurs of our ilk will be like IP. I feel like IP is one of the last things to go for most of us. Like personally, I think, because you're like something about it just like fucks with your mind. You're like, well, you can't just steal other people's thoughts.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, fucking you retard, but like it's not how that works. Like, yeah, it might be shitty, but I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess to his benefit, there's that. But this is kind of the idea. If you're going to interact with people, you should probably actually wait till you actually like interact with their actual things being expressed instead of just assuming a whole lot of shit. So, because you end up looking like a fucking retard right here. Because any ANCAP Hoppian is gonna be like, IP, get out of here, fucker. Like this is gay. Like okay, I know this is so silly. Yeah, no, we don't agree with IP. IP is dumb, and like I don't know, whatever. Well, I don't know if you have anything else to say on that because it's just silly. Because I know he's gonna straw man and be like, well, there's profit to be made. You're like. Yeah, that's not the argument we're making here. Like, yeah, sure, there are profit to be made with patents for the people who have the patents. Like, no shit. Like, I mean, in a fucking socialist society, there or a anarcho-social, not anarcho, but like in a fucking what am I trying to say? In like a shitty fucking like despotism. Yeah, there are people who are going to benefit from having a crown or whatever. Like, this is what kind of argument is this? Like, this makes no goddamn sense. So, all right, let's move on.
Entire worldview on anything else, by the way, and he is right though. We should not have patents.
These government-protected monopolies are the highest driving factor of our high drug prices in the United States. Generic drugs saved us almost $300 billion in 2017 alone. We need more generic drugs. We do not need drug patents.
I completely agree with that take. Straight up, I'll admit it. I completely agree with that take. He is absolutely right.
These are things everyone should support. I don't care if you're a communist, a libertarian, a Republican, or a Democrat. Only corrupt politicians and people in big pharma actually support these things.
I don't like hospital monopolization, but once again, I don't know if deregulating the hospitals is going to solve that problem.
He like almost finished it off to like give you props, but he just couldn't.
Yeah.
So he once again, this last little jab had to be like, something you weren't even really arguing for here, although you would ultimately argue for. So I guess to him they are props, but it's like, dude, that's not even that's not what we're talking about. So
Yeah. Like after he saw that part where I'm like, where he sees that I wasn't doing this libertarian case and I was intentionally making a case that everyone would agree with, he's like, oh, this is awkward. Let me just throw in one last little jab in here.
Yeah. Well, all right, shit. We're almost at 2 hours. This is longer than we
Yeah, I
usually
gotta
go.
go to bed. I get up
Oh
for
shit, my
work
bad.
early, so
Yeah.
that's
Well, with that, I guess we're a good spot. If you want to go ahead and drop your plugs, we can go ahead and kill it. This has been fun, I thought. So, go on.
yeah. I mean, you guys are here on YouTube, so you should check out my YouTube. It's just PraxBen, especially the videos I made in response to Hasan, because I go into a lot more detail and I really cover all of these sources that I used, and then I also apply the libertarian theory to them because I don't like just using sources. I don't want to fall into this like empiricist thing. I just use them as ways to convince people who aren't into like praxeology and libertarian thought and stuff like that. But I still want to back up those things with actual theory and show like why the results actually make sense. So I really go into that in my 2 videos about Hasan. They're both like 20 minutes long. And I have a lot of other great stuff on there, and more good stuff to come. I'll be making a video about Acadia. I'm going to be making another video about why the Nazis were socialists pretty soon. Yeah, lots of great stuff. Also, if you have TikTok, follow me on TikTok, and I got Twitter, Instagram, other stuff like that.
Yeah, I see you in the chat, Junkie Jeff. Yeah, I know this was definitely more of a libertarianism 101 thing, but this is important shit. Not everyone's as far along as some of us, so it is good to interact with the retarded takes to be able to point out how they're retarded, because some people don't see why they're retarded. So,
yeah, we need more people like really rationally thinking. Like it's too much that I have people coming to me and saying, "Hey Ben, can you like respond to this video?" Because what they're like, okay, I'm a libertarian. This person's saying this. I don't know how to respond to them, so I want someone who I think is smarter than me to respond to it and show me, give me some sort of what's the term, like confirm my preconceived notions on this subject.
Confirmation bias, or I guess almost
kind of that whole thing.
Sort of.
But I want people to be able to rationally think and like pick up on a lot of these like really stupid things that people are saying. Because most of Hasan's audience isn't smart enough to do that. You saw some people saying that, some people called him out in his comment section. But for the most part, people they're just not thinking. Like they're hearing what I'm saying just as he is, but they like Hasan more than me. Therefore, whatever Hasan says is right.
Yeah. All right. This is pretty funny. I'll give you credit for that, Jeff. It's not, I just don't like watching 2 people bullying a dude with learning disabilities. Like this is kind of the point I was getting at. I almost feel bad. This is almost like making fun of Biden, like when making fun of Hasan. You almost feel bad. You're like, it's just so dumb.
Yeah.
But then you add in the aspect, and this applies to Biden as well. How many people support this individual? You're like, well, I kind of have to. Like, I feel bad punching a retard, but like, I mean, it's got to be done. So, no one else is going to do it. So, with that, this is you've been watching No Way Jose. I'm Jose Galison. You can follow me on Twitter at 2020 No Way Jose. If you want to give me money, patreon.com/No Way Jose 2020. I'm on YouTube on all the major audio packages and Odyssey as well. Like, share, subscribe, all that gay shit. With that, we are out. This was fun, dude. Thanks for coming on.